I'm Jefferson Smith, fantasy author and host of ImmerseOrDie, here with another installment of the 5-Minute Immersion Lab. Today, we'll be talking about unanchored pronouns. One of the trickier things an author has to manage is to keep readers apprised of who is doing what in the story. You could accomplish this by using the character's name every time he does something, but in practice that tends to feel weird. Let's take a look. Oh yeah. After last week's strange audition, I've hired an assistant to manage the sidekick applicants. Hopefully we've seen the last of the Leons. Keep your fingers crossed. Tina, do we have a sidekick ready to read for us?
Sure thing, Jefferson. The hair professor is on deck and ready to fly.
Excellent. Have him standing by, please. Okay, here we go. Let's look at an example of that constant name checking. To read it, I'll be joined by today's auditioning sidekick, Herr Professor something or other.
Sigmund picked up the hammer and approached the castle. Sigmund could feel the magic. Magic? What is this magic? No one told me this would be kitty crap.
Stick to your lines, hair boy, or I will delete you.
Yeah, okay. So, Sigmund could feel the magic coming from the stonework in waves, but still Sigmund had seen nothing of the wizard.
Okay, thank you, Herr Professor. As you can see in this example, there was no question of who was doing the actions, but the constant repetition of his name creates a sense of building expectation. Sigmund this, Sigmund that. It sort of makes you wonder why the narrator keeps going on about his name. This is because names feel formal. We use them to single out a particular person, but once that person has been brought to our attention, there's no further need to single them out. So if we get the name again anyway, subconsciously it makes us wonder why. What have we missed? Because of this, once we've used the character's name, we usually drop to less formal signifiers, the pronouns. Let's take a look. Herr Professor?
Sigmund picked up the hammer and approached the castle. He could feel the magic coming from the stonework in waves, but still he had seen nothing of the wizard.
Now that feels a bit more natural. The two he's clearly refer back to Sigmund, and everything is smooth. But let's see what happens when the wizard appears. Herr Professor?
Sigmund pushed open the door. He stepped forward, hammer raised above his head, as the wizard Heinrich strode forward through the doorway, wielding his morning star of glory. He raised his hands high and brought them down with a terrible thundering crash, dashing his brains against the wall. Then he stepped back to examine the corpse of his fallen enemy.
Thank you, Herr Professor. Good job.
Can it? We're still recording.
Well, anyway, as you can see, when two characters of the same gender are present in a scene, using normal pronouns can quickly lead to confusion. We actually have no idea who won that showdown, do we? Both characters were male, and both were wielding some kind of bashing weapon. So when he raised his hands high, we don't know who he was. Similarly, we don't know whose brains are now spattered on the wall, or who stepped back to examine whose corpse. To be honest, that whole second section is a mess. The pronouns there are completely unanchored, and the effect on immersion is something I call pronoun poisoning. The usual rule of thumb is that he and his always refer to the same person, and they will stay fixed to that person until some other male character is clearly referenced, at which time all male pronouns will then anchor to that new guy instead. But even that rule would have been no help in deciphering the brain bash sentence. Since both basher and bashee are referred to with male pronouns, that sentence could never be properly unpacked, unless one of the two characters has just committed suicide by self-bludgeoning. So if you can't keep using the names, and you can't rely on pronouns, what are you supposed to do? Well, that's where pronoun phrases come in. Is Sigmund a clumsy shepherd boy? Is the wizard Heinrich a stoop-shouldered widower? With facts like these, you can construct a descriptive phrase and use that in place of he and his. Herr Professor?
Sigmund pushed open the door. The boy stepped forward, hammer raised above his head, as the wizard Heinrich strode forward through the doorway, wielding his morning star of glory. The old hunchback raised his hands high and brought them down with a terrible, thundering crash, dashing the youngster's brains against the wall. Then the wizard stepped back to examine the corpse of his fallen enemy.
Thank you, Herr Professor. That was...
Nine! It is not hair, Professor. It is the hair, Professor. Can you not see all the hair? This is my trademark.
All right, I warned you.
Ah!
Okay. Well, now what? There's still another page of script to do. We had this whole other scene planned where I showed you how it works just the same with she, her for females and its for creatures and objects, but I guess examples are all done now. To recap, you might know who your pronouns refer to, but your reader only knows what you tell her. So tell her. The rule is simple. At any given moment, there is one anchor for each pronoun gender, and whenever you make reference to a person, they become the new anchor for their gender. It's instantaneous and it's automatic. Finally, be aware that even pronouns can get tiresome after a while. So to keep things moving, it actually doesn't hurt to name check the character explicitly every now and then, if only for a bit of variety. Anyway, if you'd like to read some example books that trip over this problem, I've included a few links in the description below. And despite the staffing problems we've been having, I hope we'll see you back here next time for another dose of immersion therapy. But until then, if you're ever in doubt, just remember, immersion happens naturally. All you have to do is get out of the way. Hey, Tina, what the hell was that?
Sorry, boss. His references all checked out. You want me to maybe run a police check next time? Weirdos usually have a record.
I don't know. Maybe we should just call Flunky Finder.
That outfit? They're pretty shady, boss. I thought this was a highbrow gig.
So did I, Tina. So did I.